Hello, everybody. It's Coach Lorri, having slight technical difficulties as always. Sorry, I had a Bike Fit client today. I'm in my studio. And I had a client today who I was like, hard stop. We have to have a hard stop at 5:45. And we finished with 3 minutes to spare. And I can't get YouTube to go live, so I apologize. But I'm back here on Facebook, so hopefully you can join me. And I see at least one person is here. Thank you, Maggie. I can't always see comments and things, so I apologize for that. But welcome, everybody. For anyone who is new here, or for those of you who've just forgotten what I look like, I'm Coach Lorri Lown. I have been working with Team Wilpers since 2020. I am on the West Coast in beautiful Capitola, California, and I've been coaching for 25 years now, and I've been an endurance athlete for the last 30. Mostly cycling, but also have done my fair share of running, and last year I did a great hike of the Grand Canyon that I trained for, so lots of exciting endurance events. I joined Matt's team in 2020 during the pandemic. He brought me on as one of his team of bike fitters, and I started coaching the small group and the large group programs 4 years ago, 3 years ago? I don't know. It's been a while, and I love it. And I love the Peloton community, which is why I do what I do. And I'm glad you're here. So just a couple of acknowledgments before I get into the nuts and bolts of our program. I want to give a shout out to Chris Finley Miller. She's our Facebook page guru. She is the one who creates all the graphics and makes all the posts, and she's fabulous, and she has done this as a volunteer for many, many years, and I appreciate her so much. She keeps our Facebook group going. I also want to acknowledge our ambassadors. So we have a number of cycling ambassadors for Team Wilpers. One of them is here now, Maggie Craig, who is the ultimate hype woman, as you probably noticed if you've been on the page. She's always excited about everything and lifting other people up as well, which I think is awesome because that's what we're all about here. Maggie just celebrated 11,000 rides at Peloton Studios, New York. I was thinking Penn Station, which is across the street from PSNY. So she got to ride in studio with Matt, and I think Maggie did a bunch of different classes too, but 11,000 rides. Congratulations, Maggie. And thank you for all you do. You are absolutely the best hype woman ever. Brent Hecker and Will Jolly have been ambassadors with us as well, and both of them just completed the Seattle to Portland ride, as you've seen probably on the page. It's a 200-mile ride from Seattle to Portland and back. And they completed it in one day. You have the option of riding it in 1 day or 2 days. This is a pretty big deal. And they trained really hard together, but virtually. And the other cool thing is Will was celebrating his 1 year open heart surgery at that event. So thank you both. And then Ken Miller and Callan Morin, you may see them around from time to time, both part of Peloton Road Riders, and Callan in particular rides in the studio a lot. He works around the corner in New York. They were ambassadors on our last Club Wilpers program. So Club Wilpers is a small group program that we've introduced this past year, both for cycling and for running. And the latest program that we had was really geared toward an outdoor event, which was the Highland Grand Fondo in Butler, New Jersey. And so we all trained together for that. And it was kind of a combination of Peloton rides and indoor training rides and outdoor training rides, and yeah, it was a big event. So 100 miles, about 9,000 feet of climbing, and Matt rode with us, which was super fun as well. So thank you to all of the folks who do so much to help this program keep running. I appreciate you all very much. Power Profile Challenge. So let's talk about this a little bit. I wanted to call it, by the way, You Are More Than Your FTP. And I got nixed by marketing. I was like, really? Give me a break here. Let me name my program. Anyways, this challenge is a little different. Those of you who did it last year, you'll understand. But for those of you who are new to Team Wilpers and to our challenges, this challenge is going to be a challenging one for you. It's based on improving your short intensity or short duration intensity. So we, as a community of cyclists, whether we're outdoor cyclists or Peloton riders, we put a lot of emphasis on FTP, functional threshold power. And I try to remind people that that is just one number. It is a snapshot in time of how you completed a 20-minute effort. And the primary purpose of knowing your FTP is to accurately set your training zones. It's not really a measure of your fitness. We think it is. We think we want higher and higher and higher FTP. And the reality is, it doesn't change that much once you've been riding for a while. And the other interesting thing is, it's just one aspect of your fitness. You may have short duration power that's higher, or you may have longer duration power that's higher, but it's just one little bit of who you are. It's not a report card. It's not a quiz. It's not a test. You don't get graded on it. You are not fitter if your FTP is higher every time you test. You're just creating harder training zones so you can train harder. But the other thing that's really important to understand about FTP is it goes up and it goes down. And that is a normal cycle. I know Matt talks about this a bit, but people probably don't always listen. Our FTP is dynamic. So we can train specifically to improve that aspect of our fitness, or we can train other parts. So this challenge, we're going to train other parts of our fitness. And that's what we typically do in the summer months. Your FTP, your threshold, is going to be the highest, most likely, at the end of your base season, which might be March or April. And then it's not going to go up anymore. And it's also not going to go up forever, by the way. A lot of people put an emphasis on always getting a better FTP, and it doesn't work that way. So, especially as we're aging, it might even go down a little bit. But anyways, so we are going to focus on other aspects of our fitness this time. So what are those aspects? So what is a power profile? It's really just your maximal output at different durations. And it gives us an idea of where our strengths are and where our weaknesses are. It's also a way that we can classify riders. I don't know if you're watching the Tour de France, but not every rider is out to win. A team is comprised of different types of riders. So you might have what's called your GC, or your general classification rider. And usually they're pretty talented all around. And then you may have your sprinters, who probably aren't very good climbers, but you have to get to the sprint in order to sprint. So oftentimes they have to climb as well. You have your climbers, and you have your time trialists. So different durations of power are going to show us what our strengths are. So we'll start with the shortest, right? So 5-second power, what is that? That is neuromuscular power. That is your capacity, and muscular is super important here, right? Because so 5 seconds, you don't even feel a cardiovascular effect. But these are your sprinters. These are your track racers. These are the folks who have really strong muscles and can produce high amounts of power for a short period of time. It doesn't mean they can't do other things too, but this specific power is somewhat unique. And you'll notice the sprinter bodies tend to have more muscle mass, larger quads. These are the guys who are training hard in the gym, and the ladies who are training hard in the gym. And so that is our 5-second power. And then we have our 1-minute power, and that's our anaerobic capacity. So we have 2 energy systems that we use in endurance sports: aerobic, anaerobic. Anaerobic are harder efforts, and that is the attack. you're able to go really hard and then settle in, or bridging a gap, or pushing up a super short climb. Wow, New Jersey, East Coast riding is different. I know that, but I was reminded of that when I was back east just recently. So Highlands was in New Jersey. I also rode in Connecticut, and they were very similar in a lot of ways, and very different than California riding. So our riding on the East Coast, we tend to have these short, punchy little climbs, and they're steep, and you get over them relatively quickly, a minute or two, maybe 3. But it's really important to be able to push that hard power, versus here in California, we don't have a lot of that. We have constant grades, we have long, extended climbs, so it's a whole different type of power. The anaerobic capacity is that short 1-minute power. So we will work on that as well. And then we look at 5-minute power. So specifically, we will be working on 5-minute power and 1-minute power. And 5 minutes is your VO2 max. So those are the shorter climbs, but you're looking at something you can sustain for about 5 minutes versus something you can sustain for a minute or 20 minutes. So VO2 max there. And then FTP, which I would assume we all know, but maybe we don't, which is your 20-minute power. This is aerobic capacity. So even though you feel like you're not aerobic, you are. It's your steady state effort. You can hold this, depending on the individual, maybe you can hold it for 45 minutes. Maybe you can hold it for 75 minutes. But it's hard, as you know. You've all taken a test, so you know how hard that is, our 20-minute power. And all of this is developed within the context of your power to weight ratio. So when we ride outside, that is extremely important compared to riding on a flat road or on a Peloton or another stationary trainer. My power to weight ratio, obviously, the first part is power. So how much power can I produce? And my weight is the weight of my bike and my body. We usually just look at the body. Measured in kilograms. So I can take my watts divided by my kilograms body weight, and that will give me my power to weight ratio. And that's really the best way to compare yourself to riders or to yourself, right? Sheer power only tells part of the story. But as soon as you get to a hill, that's where the weight comes in, right? So the climbers that you see in the tour are the skinny little guys, and the sprinters are heavier and more muscular because they're producing more of the neuromuscular power. So, so we have to look at power to weight ratio as well, which, Peloton doesn't really calculate that for us. But if you put your efforts into another application like Strava, you can get that data. Why do we do power profile training? Similar to why we do climb training. It gives you some variety in what you're doing. In fitness, we are very homeostatic, if you will, right? We get really good at doing the same thing, and then we do a lot of the same thing, and eventually we kind of stagnate and we get stale in improving our fitness. And sometimes we even lose fitness, and we also get bored, right? So physically we stagnate, mentally we stagnate, and so we have to vary what we do in order to continue making improvements. So if in the fall, winter, early spring months we're working on foundational training, on aerobic training, base training, whatever you want to call it, in the summer months we're training specifically for our events or specifically for another fitness purpose. So maybe you are planning to race criteriums and you want to work on your fast power, your short duration power, or maybe you want to race at the track, or maybe you're going to ride centuries but they're hilly, and so we want to work on that 5-minute power and that 20-minute power. So those are all reasons why we want to shake up what we do. And I will say this challenge, you've probably seen it because it launched today. This is a hard challenge. It is a lot of intensity. There is some endurance, although Peloton endurance is a little more zone 3 than zone 2. I would say don't go too hard because you're going to need that endurance as well. You would not be able to sustain a training program like this long term. So if you think, wow, I saw such great results, I'm going to do this every day. We have to vary what we do. This is going to be a hard challenge. And you're going to get really fast, which is awesome. Yeah. So we'll talk just a minute about how we develop training and on that annual training plan, which Matt has been embracing this year. If you're taking his classes, he keeps talking about what phase of training we are in for him. I like to describe it as a pyramid. So we have this pyramid or this triangle, and I'm looking at the bottom of the pyramid. The foundation of what we do in fitness is consistency. And I think everyone knows that, but if you do something more often, you get better at it, whether it's practicing a musical instrument or sharpening your knife skills when you're in the kitchen. So the same thing is true in fitness. The most improvement we can make is being consistent. That's the first step. If you are not consistent, you're not going to improve. You're actually probably just going to get tired of riding or injured. So the more often we ride, the more we will improve. And this is hugely important in the first few years of riding. And so it doesn't even matter what we do. Just get on your bike. You're going to get faster. You're going to get stronger. You're going to go further. The second level of that is our rhythm. So then that's our training schedule. That's when we select to do VO2 max on Tuesdays and tempo on Thursdays. And maybe my strength is going to be Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. That's my rhythm. So I create this habit, this pattern that lets me build and also allows me to be consistent. And then the top of the pyramid is progression. And so that's where we do harder things and longer things. We are not just doing the same type of training all the time. Progression means I'm going to push my boundaries just a little bit. I'm going to ride longer or ride harder or do specific types of intervals, which is what we're going to do during our training. So we've got our fitness pyramid. We're going to vary what we do. We don't want to get stale. And why is this important? You may say, well, I never want to go fast. I don't care. I just like tootling around. I like endurance rides. But when we train our body in different ways, it makes us so much more metabolically flexible. We can do different things. So even if you are only doing endurance rides, if I train my high-end power, I can do those endurance rides better. Right? I'm pulling that fitness up from the roof versus when I'm in my base phase and I'm kind of pushing up from the basement. So I'm going to bring that roof up, raise the roof here. As I mentioned, it can identify what type of rider you are in power profiling. We can find our weaknesses. And some people hate zone 5 or zone 4, right? But they love zone 6. Well, what's that tell you? You can go hard. You've got good muscles, but maybe your cardiovascular fitness isn't quite as good. And so we need to train that. And then we improve our fitness by improving our weaknesses. We like to do the things we're good at, but we don't necessarily like to do our weaknesses. We don't like to go out and do the hard work, and that's where we're going to practice. So this is Power Profile. And you'll notice our first ride is a test. It doesn't have to be a hard test. It can just be a class. If you don't care about any of this, you can just ride the classes, right? And it can be fun. But it also is going to give you some data. And so we want to follow and do the hard efforts hard and the recovery easy in that class. And we'll have the opportunity to do it again at the end of the 6-week program. So you can benchmark now and we can see how much we improve by the end of the program. So hopefully you'll see a lot of good improvement there. Most of our workouts in this challenge are shorter and more intense. And as you know, my opinion here is more is not better. More is just more. Meaning if you start adding a lot of different things into your training instead of just what we have on our schedule, you may not be improving by doing that. So this was designed very carefully to give you the right stimulus to improve And if you start adding a lot of other stuff in, it may not help. So just understand that. And then beside our intervals, for those of you doing 4 and 5 rides in particular, you've got endurance as well. And I didn't choose just Zone 2 endurance this time. Sometimes I do that, but you can always ride endurance rides easier. The goal in our endurance rides is not to work harder. The goal is just to add volume. So this will help keep you balanced, keep you fitter. So, yeah. And as I said, the PZE rides are mostly tempo because they're going up into Zone 3. So it's okay to ride at the bottom of your zones. So what else? Just some basics, some housekeeping. So if you signed up, you can find the program now on the Team Wilpers platform. We will launch it each week on Thursdays, so you have the opportunity to look ahead. I don't recommend, here's another thing, think about honoring the schedule because it was designed specifically to give you recovery and give you hard work. And if you miss a class, you don't have to make it up. Definitely don't stack classes. Don't try to do multiple intense classes on one day. You really don't get any benefit from that. It's not about checking these off. It's about getting the training stimulus. So, yes, so the program is there. And if you need to plan ahead because you're traveling or whatever, you can do that. And there's also PDFs on each of the programs, and it should have launched one in the Facebook group tonight. I scheduled it to launch when we were doing this. So the first free challenge, the 3 ride challenge, is there. If you're registered for all access, you'll find the PDF for that on the Team Wilpers platform. And all those links are clickable, so you can just click and stack your rides and your cool down and your stretch and your strength work if you're doing the all access program. So on your mobility work and all of that. The 3 ride challenge is free, and we encourage you to post your graphs and let us know how you're doing. The all access program is $9.95 a month. And in addition to getting this program, you also have access to everything else in our library, which includes some outdoor training programs, running programs, strength programs, all kinds of good stuff. And the other thing we're going to do this challenge is I'm going to do a couple private Zooms. I do know how to Zoom. And we will do a couple private Zooms with the all access riders, with me and maybe a guest. We'll see. But we have one mid-challenge, then we'll do a wrap-up at the end. That's about it. Yeah. And we have some Team Wilpers member discounts too if you do all access. So I saw a couple of questions on the Facebook page, and I think I will answer them on the Facebook page since we can't interact really. If you have questions, post them there. Let me know how you're doing. Post up your rides. We can put together some group rides again for our Saturday rides if you'd like to do that. And in the past we've done, I think it was a 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern. I had to think about that. So we'll pop those on, and if you want to ride with teammates, that'll be a time you can target, or let us know when you plan to ride and we can ride together. Our leaderboard tag is Team Wilpers Cycling. And that's about it. We have Strava Club. There's info there too. And the Facebook page, which obviously you've all found because you're here, all 14 of you. It's my favorite number, by the way. And I guess that's it. I am out for this week. And I will see you on the leaderboard on Monday. Actually, Tuesday. Monday's a rest day. So thanks for joining me, everybody. Again, this is Coach Lorri Lown, and I will see you on the leaderboard.